The largest part of Zambia's investment has been in infrastructure, with roads receiving a larger share. At the center of all this is the agency responsible for mobilizing resources, the National Road Fund Agency. The agency is also the lead toll agent implementing and managing toll plazas across the country. On the program this evening, I talked to National Road Fund Agency Director and Chief Executive Officer, Mr. Wallece Mumba. You're watching Sunday Interview, and I'm your host, Grevazio Zulu. Sir, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Grevazio, and good evening, viewers.
Now, you're running a very important institution, well known for toll gates, I guess, but I suppose your mandate is wide. I want you to explain what the mandate of the NRFA is.
Thank you, Grevazio. To begin with, let me say that we are a body corporate established under an Act of Parliament, the National Road Fund Act number 13 of 2002. We fall under the Ministry of Finance. For obvious reasons, we are the fund managers for the road sector. So we essentially manage all the funds for the road sector. Our key functions essentially are summed up into three key thematic areas. And the first one is the resource mobilization, like you rightly put it. The second one is fiduciary management. And the last but not the least is promoting value for money within the road sector. So if you look at resource mobilization, essentially we are responsible to ensure that adequate funds are mobilized for the various road projects that are ongoing, and including other key activities within the road sector. So that's our mandate, and that's why we fall under the Ministry of Finance. Yes,
when you speak of resource mobilization, apart from toll gates, do you have any other activity that you undertake?
Yes.
More funds for the road.
Yes. First of all, the sources of our funds from the local front, we have what we call the road user charges. Now, the road user charges comprise a fuel levy. So for every liter of diesel you buy, there is 60 ngwe that is channeled for road maintenance, for road construction. For petrol, it's 80. For diesel, it's 80 ngwe. For diesel, it's 60 ngwe. That is one of the sources of funds, and that's a fuel levy. We also have the road tax. So whenever you are paying road tax, driver license fees, and fitness fees, all that money comes into the basket. So those are a part of the road user charges. We also have now the tolls, which are user fees. Now, this is not a tax, but a user fee, where when you use the road, that's when you pay. When you use a section of the road, you pay a toll. That also comes into the basket. We have weighbridge fines. These we don't feel good when it starts increasing, because these are the fines that the heavy goods vehicles pay when they overload. So when this starts increasing, we get worried because there's more damage on the road. So it also comes, whatever is paid, it also comes to us. There's also the general taxes. This is appropriated by Parliament, and there's a portion that comes into the road fund. We have the external funding as well, coming from the various cooperating partners, World Bank. We have the African Development Bank, we have EU that also contributes, and the various other cooperating partners. So this is put together, what now is consolidated into the road fund, and that's the fund that we manage.
Now, you've got, motorists, of course, complain that you keep on milking them and just changing names, and road tax, fuel levy, toll levy. And isn't it too much on the motorists?
Grevazio, I would not say it's too much. First of all, it's been going in stages. Not everything would have been introduced at one time, but it's been going in stages. And also just to learn from other countries that have developed very well, this is the strategy that they've used. It's essentially putting together funds to ensure that we bring our road network into a maintainable condition. If you look at our road network now, we've had a huge backlog, but we are getting there. Year in, year out, we are improving. We are bringing on board new roads. We are upgrading those that were at gravel level to paved road, to paved category. So this is an improvement. And there's a saying that you pay for roads, whether in bad condition or in poor condition. So if we don't improve the road network, it's very difficult to create wealth. In fact, George Washington, the former president of USA, said that it's not the wealth that creates the roads, but it's the roads that creates the wealth. So for you to easily build your house, for you to easily do your business, we need to make sure that access is availed. We need to make sure that the road is in good condition. So it puts together, you find that it's a positive thing, and the roads are essentially required.
Now let's look at one of the biggest projects that you're managing. I'm assuming Tollgates is one of now probably the biggest financer of NRFA. Yes,
essentially, it's significantly brought on board some funds into the basket. It's not the only source, but
is that the biggest?
In terms of percentage under the local front or the road user charges, tolls give us at about 42%. We have the road tax, which gives us at about 23%, and fuel levy gives us about 35%. So tolls are at 42% from the road user charges. Like for this year, if you just take on average, that is what is bringing in.
Yeah, I was looking at this when we introduced the tolling program way back 2013. It's been 5 years now. There was a bit of misgiving from the public. How would you measure the perception now? Have people changed the way they look at toll plazas?
From 2013 to 2015, tolling was only applied on the commercial vehicles, and this was just at the ports of entry and also at the way bridges. So the small cars, like the cars that you and me would be driving, would not be subjected to paying tolls. When National Road Fund Agency was appointed as a lead tolls agent in 2015, specifically in August, we worked frantically with the Road Development Agency, and we opened up Manyumbi and Kaflafuta actually on the 15th of January 2016 at 06. That was the time when the first inland toll fee was paid at Manyumbi, the toll plaza. Even the time when we're doing the user acceptance test, motorists were willing to pay. What they were saying was that we've seen this in Zimbabwe, we've seen this in South Africa. Even when we go outside Africa, we see these toll gates. So they were willing to pay. So there were not there were no serious misgivings, or just maybe just isolated cases. And this was because of the stakeholder engagement that we undertook. We started with Parliament, engaged all the parliamentarians, presented, and the questions they were asking us was that, why are you starting now? Why didn't you start 10 years ago? We've gone through this process, but this tolling has also brought in another dimension. People are now concerned about how we are doing our affairs. How are you utilizing the money? That is coming in strongly. So there is some engagement with the public.
People want to hold you accountable.
Yes,
I'm going to ask you, a total of 2.2 billion kwacha has been collected from the toll station since 2013 to date.
Yes.
But concerns from the public still remain. They're not seeing the impact of the toll gates. The roads are still bad. What is the justification for that?
Two things. Firstly, I'll tell you that when we collect the tolls, we use them in accordance with the Tolls Act number 14 of 2011, which essentially stipulates that when you collect the tolls, they will accrue to the road fund, and they shall be used on construction, rehabilitation and maintenance of roads. So we make sure that this is used to that. But also to just mention that the backlog has been huge. We have a lot of projects that we are undertaking. The impact may not be felt immediately, but I can assure you we are moving there. We've used about 500 million kwacha on periodic and routine maintenance. Out of that 2 billion, we've used about 730 million kwacha for upgrading and rehabilitation. We've used about almost 500 million kwacha on road safety activities, because even as we are collecting tolls, we have to ensure that some road safety activities are also undertaken. We got a loan from NAPSA to just complete the corridor from Dola up all the way up to Solwezi. If you drive on the Chingola-Solwezi road, it's actually complete. You drive without, people are taking maybe 1.5 hours to 2 hours, when just 1.5 years ago, 2 years ago, you would spend maybe even up to 6 hours. And that was slowing down the economy. So we have also, we got that loan, and part of the repayment towards that loan is coming from the tolls. We've applied these tolls on projects such as the Kazungula Bridge. There are works going on the Livingstone Sesheke, where tolls are being applied. We have road projects such as the Kafiwe Mazabuka, the Pedico Road, which will be completed soon. We have other projects also like Kaomba Mshota, where we've applied these tolls. So it's across the country. The issue is that we may not get the tolls and just apply on that particular section where we are collecting. But isn't this an unfair way of applying the resource? No, I'm not saying the cash cow where the money is being made, the road is bad. Yes, no. You decide you're going to take the money elsewhere where the money is not being. No, I'm not saying that we ignore those sections. We have to make sure that those sections are kept in maintainable condition. Let's look at Great North Road, still looking bad. And I think that makes you a lot of money, gives you a lot of money as an Great North Road, in fact, yesterday, RDA was signing a contract for rehabilitation of the section from Chinsali to Nakonde. Yesterday, the contract was signed. We know that that road is not in good condition. Very soon, you will see the contractor going on site. You still have potholes just before you get into Kabwe? Oh, yes. We are doing maintenance activities. We have come up with an initiative. Just to answer your question, we've come up with an initiative we are calling Rotomap. This is the Road Tolling Maintenance Program. The idea of that initiative is actually to respond to that concern. We don't sit back and say, let people complain, we apply the money where we want. We are actually listening carefully, and we have to make sure that we respond to people's concerns. So this is where we came up with that initiative to ensure that where we are collecting tolls, we need to now step up the maintenance activities. So even on the Kabwe Chisamba area where there were potholes, you've noticed in the last maybe 2 months there have been accelerated activities in terms of maintenance. If you go to Kasama, Tumbala, we've got a toll station at Katesh. As we speak now, potholes on that section have been patched. We've also given some monies to various councils. Luapula Mansa is doing very well. They've even given us a very good report about the little money that we gave them just to do some maintenance activities in that area. So it's a continuous process, and would like to assure essentially the motorists and the general public that very soon you see a lot of improvements going forward. We have adopted a culture of continuous improvement. When we receive any complaints, we go back to the table, look at the complaints, analyze, and come up with ideas on how we're going to respond. That's why initiatives such as now, is road tolling the answer to all these problems we have on the roads? It's essentially part of the answer. If it was, we would not be seeing the poor state of the Kafiwe Mazabuka road and many others. Actually, that's where we are going. We would not want to get to a point where the road deteriorates to the Kafiwe Mazabuka. We are going to rehabilitate that road. After we rehabilitate,
at a huge cost.
Yes, at a huge cost. And that is essentially in line with the maintenance ethos. When we rehabilitate a road like Chingola to Solwezi, we're going to put a toll gate about 15-20 kilometers from Chingola. In fact, by October, November, it should be operation at Muchinshi. Once we put that toll gate, we need to ensure that that road is maintained. We do not want to get to a level where it deteriorates, we start making detours and start getting to a point where it becomes impassable. We don't want to get to that. So all these roads that are being rehabilitated, once it's rehabilitated, we start applying maintenance and a timely maintenance. That is very critical for us. So that's where we are going.
Your intention is to increase road tolling footprint to many other parts of the country, and according to your report, you intend to at least raise 845 million kwacha, representing about 26% growth for this year from last year. What are the key areas you're targeting?
We are looking at first of all the Michael Chirufyasata toll station. This is between Ndola and Kitwe. We will be opening very soon a toll gate in northwestern province between Solwezi and Mutanda Junction, a toll station called Kiabankaka. We have 3 small toll stations in western province. And they are various. So we have about 6 toll stations that we should be opening very soon. But our target is by end of year we could add another 11 across the country.
So your total for this year, 2018, is 40 stations?
That is the target. Our leadership has given us a very, obviously a very tight target that we need to complete all those toll stations. We are working. You are
behind schedule.
Exactly, yes.
And as of now, you probably only have 11 nearing completion, and six completed?
Yes, yes, yes.
So 18 in total, half?
Yes, yes. We have.
And the year is almost done?
Yes,
3 months before
yes,
we go?
Yes. We have 10 ports of entry. We have 10 that are operational. Then we have 6 that will be opening shortly, maybe within the next 3 weeks. And then we have 11 that are coming on board. We are also engaging ZRA so that we can identify. We've identified, I think, about 14 ports of entry where ZRA is present, but we are not collecting any tolls from there. So we may be targeting those areas as well. Yeah.
By the end of the year, how many do you hope to have?
We are hoping that we could hit up to 30 by end of the year. That is more or less realistic. We will target to hit 40, but it's obviously a tall order. But we'll see. We are working closely with the road development agency.
When you look at your work plan, next year, how many are you looking at?
By next year, we'll achieve the entire 40.
Will that be all? You're still rolling out?
Yes, no. When we get to 40, that's our target. Then we have to get back to the drawing table and see where else we can
place them. Now, help me understand. How do you select these toll sites?
We've got our criteria and we look at a few things. For instance, the traffic volume. That is key. And what we call revenue generating vehicles. Because you can go and place a toll station at a place where you have, say, 1,000 vehicles, and maybe 80% of those vehicles are those that don't pay, like the military, the security vehicles don't pay. So we look at the traffic volume, number one. We look at the stretch. It has to be in a situation where you safeguard the lives of the station and the people there. So it has to be a wide stretch. We also look at the connectivity in terms of the network. We need to ensure that we are communicating with the toll station from head office. So those are some of the things that we look at and ensure that once we place a toll station there, it's functional. We also avoid crowded places because you realize that we'll have a lot of movement around, and even if we have the discounts, but it may not work very well. So we avoid very crowded places. Only where it's unavoidable, then we place a toll station there.
You did give us a breakdown of how the money is used. You talked about construction, rehabilitation, maintenance. When you look at the money that you've collected, for instance, probably this year, in terms of percentages, how has it been allocated? Where is the thrust?
I would say that a bigger portion it tends to go to rehabilitation and upgrading as compared to maintenance. For the simple reason that, first of all, the maintenance, the upgrading cost is on the higher side. So we'd want to bring some key roads into maintainable condition. The road I talked about, like the Pedico Road, if you look at the roads like Kawambwa Mshota, that side, we look at roads like the Chingola, Chingola Solwezi. Those are roads which are very critical economically, and we need to finance that. So a significant portion has gone into rehabilitation. But what we would want to see is a tilt, so that we have more and more funds going into maintenance, and that is our target. But if you look at, for instance, this year, we've collected, up to end of August, we collected 538 million from the tolls. What we've received from Ministry of Finance, and this I would want to emphasize, is more than 2 billion kwacha. So that's why I was saying that tolls are part of the solution, but we also have the other sources of funds coming in. So there's the GRZ direct funding, the general taxes. We also have the road tax, the other road user charges I talked about coming in. NAPSA, we also signed an agreement with NAPSA, which I can talk about a little later. A very good concept, Grevazio, where we signed a 2.12 billion kwacha from NAPSA. For the first time in the history of the NRFA, we got into that arrangement, and this, in our view, is a win-win-win solution. The reason being that this fund under NAPSA is essentially our fund, all of us, including you. I'm sure you remit to NAPSA. And once we pay them as we are repaying them, there is a return on that fund. So the worker, you and me, will also benefit from that. But at the same time, it has provided a gap in terms of financing to complete a major corridor in our road network. And we sold this to our African countries. I can tell you, everyone is actually amazed that this is the way Zambia is going.
The challenge with Zambia is that we set the trend, we don't maintain, and we eventually surpass.
Essentially,
passed by other countries.
Exactly.
That copy from us.
That's the reason why, when you look at what we are doing, what we tend to see are always negative sentiments. On Monday, I'm receiving a delegation of 8 people from Kenya. This is the 3rd time they are coming. They are coming with banks and people from the treasury to just come and learn on how we are managing the tolling program, how we manage to get a fund locally from a pension fund. And they are saying that these are things that we need to look at. And so we'll need a lot of support from all of us, from all of you.
You need support, but people are still not convinced. I mentioned earlier that people are not against road tolls per se, but they're saying they're already paying enough through fuel levy and road tax. Yes, there's also a concern, for instance, that, well, the fact that some roads are still in a dilapidated state justifies the concern that probably the toll fees are going towards payment of salaries for civil servants.
No. And I can assure you, we get, that's why I'm saying we've collected 538 million kwacha. How much have we received from Ministry of Finance? Over 2 billion. What does it tell you? If I came here and I'm saying that we collected 538 million kwacha, and we've only received from the January to date, we've only received 200 million kwacha, yes, there will be concern. But I'm saying we collected 538. Ministry of Finance has released to NRFA over 2 billion kwacha. So on top of the tolls that we've collected, government has even added more to ensure that most of these roads are put in maintainable condition. We've started, and what is happening is, for instance, I talked about Chingola to Solwezi. You remember the complaints that we used to have. Serious complaints around that road. We've completed, there are no complaints. And no one even talks about or even patting government on the back to say, well done, this is a very good road that you've given us. We're complaining, you responded to our complaints, and this is a road. There are complaints on Kafiwa Mazabuka. When we finish it, obviously the complaints will go. We have other roads like, for instance, the M9, Lusaka Mongo. There's that section, Katunda to Katateyoyo to Katunda. It's in a bad condition. We have not gone to sleep. We are already looking at such roads. We have, for instance, the Chinsali to Nakonde road. These are roads which I was just saying that that section, the contract has already been signed. Look at Great East Road. Great East Road is now in good condition. There are only a few sections that are being worked on. So there is movement, there is progress. We are moving, and 5 years from now, if we moved at the pace that we are going, you will find that 5 years from now, the story will change. We'll be talking about other problems, not essentially what we are talking about.
We'll stop talking about roads. Now let's look at the number of tolling stations you're about to construct. 40, that's a huge number. What impact will it have?
Yeah, in terms of the impact, first of all, we expect obviously additional revenue into the basket. But secondly, we also would want to see some kind of integration, or we are collaborating with the various stakeholders. These toll gates are also what we call soft roadblocks, where you find that other government agencies would actually benefit from such facilities in terms of information, in terms of control, in terms of security, apart from just getting the money, apart from just raising the funds. But you will see a lot of advantages coming through by spreading these toll stations across the country.
Now, on the side of the person, the taxpayer, or the person paying the fees, do we see a reduction? You will have so many of these, and of course, you'll probably need people to pay less.
Yes, exactly.
Is that being considered?
What we are looking at, I thought you would ask that. Don't you see an increase? Yeah, but what will be?
I'll see a reduction in terms of reducing people's travel costs. If somebody started off from Lusaka and you've put 3 more toll gates, and they're probably driving to Livingstone or Chipata, they'll have to pay for 4 toll stations.
Yes, what we'll be looking at, what we could be looking at is because of the best practice is that the tolls, if you look at the World Bank the toolkits, they essentially propose that you pay a toll for every 100 kilometers. So for every 100 kilometers, you pay a toll. And what we have at the moment is that most of these toll gates are not within less than 100 kilometers. If I find that we have about 40,000 kilometers of the core road network. The total is about 67,000. So they are not placed within the 100-kilometer stretches. So what we may look at a later stage is to visit the South African model, where each toll station, depending on the location, would have its own payment, its own rates. But at the moment, what we've done is we've provided some discounts for those that frequent the toll station. There are some discounts that are applied. So it's an issue that we'll look at, especially when we start getting to 40 toll stations at that time. It's something that we'll review and look at critically.
You've promised that your new toll stations will create in excess of 10,000 new jobs. What kind of jobs are these?
Essentially, when we have a toll gate, we it's something that runs for 24/7. So it's it's a 24/7 operation, and just within the toll station we have employed a good number of people, especially the young ones, the youths. This is part of job creation. We as NRFA, we were just about 2 years ago, 2015, we were 25 in terms of the staffing levels. We are more than 240 right now. So with the more toll stations we are opening, we obviously bring in more people. But beyond that, because there are ripple effects, we expect to have a lot of maintenance activities. And those maintenance activities will also bring on board a lot more people to be employed.
I'd asked you about a reduction, because I know that in other countries, comparatively, Zimbabwe is cheaper than us in terms of tolls.
In fact, I've got some figures, some comparative figures. We are not far off from the stations. I think Mozambique is slightly higher than us. Yeah, Zimbabwe, we are just about the same level. Yeah, I think for those two, but we are not far off from the region. So we are within the regional figures. Otherwise, there could have been complaints. Zambians travel quite a lot. They would be in South Africa, and they are paying, and when they come here, they don't complain. What we've done is what has helped us a lot are the discounts. We've got the local user discounts. So if you are within a radius of 10 kilometers of the toll station, just go to the toll station, register, you provide information, the relevant information, and once you register, you are put into the system. As you are coming, you pay 2 kwacha and not 20 kwacha.
As a frequent
user.
Yes,
those that pay 40 kwacha, they pay a 10 kwacha. So that is the local user discount. Then we've got the frequent user discount. So if you live in Kafiwe and work in Lusaka, the moment you hit 10 passes, the 11th pass, you are dropped to 25%. If you're paying 20 kwacha, you'll be paying 5 kwacha.
Less than 20 kwacha.
So that is the proviso to ensure that there is equitable. But if you're traveling from Livingstone and going to the Copper Belt, you're not, and you travel once in a while, you're not, you don't qualify for a frequent user discount, so you pay the 20 kwacha. Yeah.
Let's look at payments and funding. I know that one of the challenges government used to face, or I don't know if they still face it now, is that there was payment of huge interest rates on projects, and this is because of lack of planning, and most of the time was paid as standing time from charge by the people that you awarded contracts, and this was as a result of NRFA and probably RDA failing to plan. Has this improved?
There's some improvement. I would tell you, we had quite a serious challenge, especially during 2015, 2016, because of the various economic factors that affected the country and possibly even globally. And into 2017 into 2018, there's been a huge improvement. Every month there are funds that are received, and we ensure that we pay the various contractors. Yes, we are in a position where quite a lot of projects have been rolled out, and we are now looking into aspects of ensuring that these road projects are completed. So we've slowed down significantly in terms of rolling out new major projects so that we complete the current projects. So that those are some of the strategies that we've put in place to avert such situations. Yeah.
I know that RDA was directed that they should engage NRFA before they on availability of funds before they commit to any project. Is this happening?
Yes, yes, yes. Right now, before RDA signs any project, they have to submit to us. We look at the availability of funds. If we see that the funds are not available, then we advise as such, but we also engage Ministry of Finance. Are we able to expand beyond this level? And Ministry of Finance is always providing that guidance. So it's happening.
Are you saying overcommitment is now gone? it's a thing of the past?
It's managed. I would say it's managed.
It's still there, but managed.
We still have some backlog in terms of what we are carrying, but it's being managed, and the debt has been managed, and essentially it's reducing.
Now, I wanted to ask you, besides mobilization, one of the tasks that you have is to ensure value for money. And one of the biggest complaints that we hear from motorists and road users is poor quality of work done on the roads. How are you addressing this?
From the National Road Fund Agency perspective, Grevazio, we've essentially changed our approach in the sector. Before, we were more or less on the fiduciary management, meaning that we'd wait for money to come from Ministry of Finance, the external funds, and then we manage it and we pay, and not so aggressive in terms of resource mobilization and also value for money. We took a turn and strengthened the two areas which were essentially weak, the resource mobilization. That's why I was talking about the NAPSA, for instance, and other areas that road tolling was brought to NRFA. Value for money, we also strengthened that area, and we went to the extent of even buying some basic equipment, where we, from time to time, our engineers go on site, verify some of these works, providing complementary role towards RDA, because RDA essentially are responsible for that. But we come in as NRFA to provide a complementary role. So from 2011 to date, we've actually saved over 70 million kwacha through our value for money activities. So we scrutinize the documents carefully, we go out on site and ensure that we thoroughly check. So we bought some pieces of equipment. If you remember, we even provided some technical expertise to the Office of the Auditor General. It was arising from that. So all the reports that we get, we engage our implementing agencies, RDA, the Ministry of Local Government, to ensure that we question here, we noted that there is a problem, here there is a problem, and from there we agree, essentially, because we do not sign on those contracts, so we cannot go direct to the contractors. We have to go through the implementing agencies. But we constructively engage them to ensure that the issue of value for money is taken care of. What we've noticed, and why that area is very critical, is that even the general public, that is an area they keep emphasizing on. They are asking questions, and we need to ensure that at the back of our minds, whatever we are doing, we need to remember that these are public funds. The public are watching, and we need to ensure that it's put to good use. Yes.
You're giving people an assurance that soon the issue of poor quality roadworks will end.
Yes, that's our dream. That's our dream, and we are not sleeping on that. We are already going through an organizational transformation. Our organizational structure is being reviewed, and even as we are reviewing that, we are taking into account those issues to ensure that there is value for money, and especially that we brought on board tolling. We need to ensure that quality of works are...
People get value for the money that they're paying. Now, in terms of costing, Zambia is said to have one of the highest unit cost per kilometer of road. Have you done an assessment to understand whether this is the correct picture and why this is so?
I got some information from RDA, where they did, I think through their research and development unit, where they did some comparative study with other countries. We've got Kenya and Tanzania, more or less about $800,000-900,000 per kilometer. Zambia is about $1 million per kilometer. If you look at Swaziland, Uganda, Mozambique, and Botswana, in fact, Botswana is about $1.3 million per kilometer. We also did, within the National Road Fund Agency, we did our own assessment, and just preliminary basic assessment, to just look at the various contracts. You find that those that are going towards the $1 million per kilometer are these contracts where the contractor also arranges for finance. So there's the cost of the money, there's also other costs that come into play. But where government has the money and we advertise and we get the contracts, you find that it reduces even to about 500,000, 550,000 per kilometer, dollars per kilometer. So you find that we are not way off. So you find that out of the 7 countries, there are 4 countries where the cost is much higher. Yes. And Zambia is slightly on the lower side comparatively. But also to mention that even as a sector, especially from the road, the funding agency perspective, we are still not comfortable with this price. So that's why I kept saying that we constructively engage our sister agencies to see how we can reduce this cost. We've signed MOUs, Grevazio, just to mention, with the universities. We've signed an MOU with the University of Zambia, an MOU with Mulungushi University. We brought all road sector agencies on board, and this is one of the critical areas that we need to look at. What is the actual cost? Because even these researchers, they may not be fully informed. So we want to now do a proper study, and this we are targeting next year. We also engage our universities so that they help us in terms of doing a proper research and coming up with practical, not just theoretical solutions, but practical solutions to reduce the cost. Because for me, this one is very critical, so that I can do more kilometers with the same money that I'm receiving. Yeah.
Let's look at the contractors. You have pledged in one of your reports that you pay on a rotational basis to ensure everybody else who's part and parcel of the road construction is paid. But we still have complaints from local contractors who feel foreign companies are getting a huge chunk.
Maybe 2 things, Grevazio. Firstly, yes, we have set up a criteria in terms of payment of contractors, and we are looking at also rotational basis. We right now, because of the backlog that we have, we don't sit just as NRFA and pay. We actually do consultations with the Road Development Agency, local government, and the ministries, the Ministry of Housing and Infrastructure, just to look at which key projects can we look at. Because if we receive the money and then I've got a bigger pot and the minimum is small, we need to do everything on top of the table so that we look at who is paid. Our emphasis, and this it comes strongly from even our Minister of Finance, is so much on the local contractors. Now, what we have right now is that about 75% of the projects in terms of value is owed to the foreign contractors. And about 25% is sitting with the local contractors. So when we receive the funds and we do a 50% to foreign and a 50% to the local, that gives some advantage to the local contractors. But not, also to say that we are aware that, you know, if we have a local contractor who we owe funds, we owe money, we haven't paid for 2 months, and we have a foreign contractor who we have not paid for 2 months, the effect is different, because in some cases, especially the routine maintenance contractors, you find that it's hand to mouth. If we don't pay them for 1 month, then the effect is so much. So that's where the emphasis is on the local contractors. That's why, if you remember, somewhere about April, we got about 200 million kwacha, which we paid to the local contractors. That was solely paid to the local contractors. So that has been emphasis, and one of the focus areas for the 4th quarter for the National Road Fund Agency is actually to engage Ministry of Finance to see how we can reduce the effect of this debt that we owe, especially on the local contractors.
How much do you owe local contractors?
It's about $1 billion. About $1 billion. Slightly less than $1 billion.
You have plans of dismantling it?
That is
when do we see you dismantling the entire amount?
That's why I'm saying that that's a critical strategy Our thoughts essentially is that if we could dismantle this by end of the year or Q1 of 2019, that would sit very well for us.
Because if you're all local contractors, and indirectly you are making them fail to succeed, to grow and become big like the international companies.
Essentially, and that's why I'm saying that the emphasis has been so much on the local contractors. If you look at the graph, how we've been reducing the debt on the local contractors, it's actually moved quite low. We're somewhere about 1.8 billion within this year. We are at 1 billion. By end of the year, if we can even get to 200 by Q1 of 2019, if we can clear that, that will sit very well. This is something which every time I meet even the Minister of Finance, emphasis is so much on the local contractors, because that's with the effect on them is quite huge.
It's quite huge.
Yeah. So it's essentially an issue of timing, and we'll be able to dismantle that. I'm very positive, and we've engaged Minister of Finance, and we have to ensure that we promote them.
You did talk about your loan from NAPSA, 2.1 billion kwacha. Have you started paying?
Yes. We've started paying already. It's a 10-year loan period, and we've already gotten over 2 billion kwacha. We've paid over 200 million kwacha back to NAPSA as part of the repayments. Yeah. So we'll continue paying. We've gotten the money within this period, and we'll continue paying over a period of 10 years.
Is it a concessional loan, interest-free loan?
No, we are paying a return. We are paying interest, yeah. We are paying interest.
Mr. Mumba, it's been a pleasure having you on the program.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
You've been watching Sunday Interview, and today we were speaking with the Chief Executive Officer for the National Road Fund Agency, Mr. Wallece Mumba. We'll be back next week sometime. Pleasant viewing.